Welcome, dear viewers, to today's heartfelt story. During the most difficult period of his company, CEO Quan is forced to remain in the city to handle a serious crisis, facing pressure from partners and the possible collapse of his entire corporation. Through long, exhausting nights, he cannot stop thinking about the peaceful farm and the woman he loves. Not wanting Tieu Lac to worry, Quan quietly writes her a handwritten letter, pouring out his longing, promising that he will return soon, and gently reminding her to take care of her health. Far away, when Tieu Lac receives the letter, she is so moved that tears fill her eyes. She does not cry out of weakness, but out of love and compassion for the man who carries so much responsibility, yet still keeps her at the center of his heart. Distance does not fade their love. Instead, it deepens their understanding and appreciation for each other. Silently, they both keep trying, both believing in the day they will reunite. If you enjoy emotional, gentle, yet powerful love stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support is the greatest motivation for us to continue bringing you meaningful and inspiring stories every day. The company of CEO Quan was facing one of the most critical periods in its history. Major contracts had suddenly been suspended, investors were growing impatient, and a powerful competitor was quietly attempting to undermine the company's market position. Every morning began with tense meetings, stacks of financial reports, and urgent calls that seemed to multiply by the hour. The once vibrant headquarters now felt heavy with anxiety. Employees whispered in hallways, uncertain about the future, their eyes filled with hope whenever Quan walked past. As the leader, he understood that his composure was the only anchor holding everything together. No matter how exhausted he felt, he stood tall, offering reassurance, outlining strategies, and making difficult decisions that would determine the company's survival. Late at night, when most of the staff had gone home, the lights in his office remained on. The city outside shimmered with distant neon reflections, but inside, the silence felt overwhelming. Quan loosened his tie and leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling as fatigue settled into his bones. He had not allowed himself a proper rest in days. Coffee cups gathered on the corner of his desk like silent witnesses to his relentless determination. Yet, even in the middle of spreadsheets and risk assessments, his thoughts drifted far away, from the cold glass walls of the skyscraper to the warm, earthy scent of the countryside. He thought about the peaceful farm, the gentle breeze brushing across open fields, and most of all, the soft smile of Tieu Lac. Whenever the pressure threatened to overwhelm him, her image became his quiet refuge. He could almost picture her tending to the garden, sunlight resting on her hair, her laughter blending with the rustling leaves. Compared to the ruthless world of corporate competition, the farm represented sincerity, simplicity, and unconditional love. It was the place where he did not have to be CEO Quan, the decisive and unshakable leader. There, he was simply a man who loved deeply. Still, responsibility weighed heavily on him. Hundreds of employees depended on his leadership to secure their livelihoods. Walking away, even temporarily, was not an option. He knew that if he faltered now, years of hard work could crumble in an instant. So he stayed. He revised strategies, negotiated tirelessly with partners, and searched for solutions long after midnight. Every calculated risk he took was not only for the company's stability, but also for the future he dreamed of building with Tieu Lac, a future where he could return to her without unfinished battles haunting him. Sometimes, in rare quiet moments, doubt crept into his heart. What if the crisis lasted longer than expected? What if the distance caused pain he could not see? But each time those fears surfaced, he straightened his posture and reminded himself why he was fighting so hard. Love was not only about presence, it was also about perseverance. If he could overcome this storm, he would return stronger, not just as a successful CEO, but as a man worthy of the woman waiting for him. And with that thought steadying his resolve, Quan turned back to his desk, ready to face another long night, carrying both the weight of responsibility and the warmth of love in his heart. Unable to call because he feared the exhaustion in his voice would betray him, CEO Quan chose something far more intimate. He decided to write a letter. Long after the final meeting of the day had ended and the building had fallen silent, he opened the drawer of his desk and took out a sheet of cream-colored stationery he had been saving. The simple act felt strangely calming. In a world dominated by emails, contracts, and digital messages, putting pen to paper seemed almost sacred. He wanted every word to carry warmth, not worry, strength, not struggle. For a long moment, he stared at the blank page. So many thoughts rushed through his mind: financial pressures, strategic plans, negotiations awaiting his signature. But none of that belonged in this letter. When it came to Tieu Lac, he did not want to speak as a CEO. He wanted to speak as the man who missed her more than he allowed himself to admit. Finally, he began to write. He told her that the company was facing challenges, but he reassured her that he was handling everything carefully. He did not describe the sleepless nights or the weight pressing against his chest during tense negotiations. Instead, he focused on hope. He wrote that once things stabilized, even just a little, he would return to the farm. He could almost see her reading those words, her eyes scanning each line slowly, her fingers gently tracing the ink. The thought made him pause, and a faint smile appeared on his tired face. He reminded her not to overwork herself. "Please don't skip meals," he wrote, picturing how easily she forgot to eat when she was busy tending the fields. "Take care of your health and wait for me." The sentence was simple, but it carried layers of emotion. He did not want her to wait in loneliness or uncertainty. He wanted her to wait with trust. Trust that he would keep his promise. Trust that distance would never weaken what they shared. When he finally wrote the words, "I miss you very much," his hand hesitated for just a second. The confession felt vulnerable, almost fragile compared to the firm signatures he placed on corporate documents every day. Yet this vulnerability was real. In boardrooms, he negotiated fearlessly, but in love, he was sincere and unguarded. He admitted that whenever he felt overwhelmed, he thought about the quiet mornings at the farm, about her laughter echoing across the fields. Those memories gave him strength when nothing else could. He also apologized for making her wait, for not being by her side during this difficult time. He promised that when he returned, it would not be as a defeated man escaping failure, but as someone who had fought through the storm and emerged stronger. He wanted to build a future with her that was secure and peaceful, free from unfinished battles. After finishing, Quan reread the letter slowly, as if trying to memorize every word. Then he folded it carefully and sealed the envelope. Holding it for a moment, he felt as though he was holding a piece of his own heart. In the ruthless corporate world, strength was measured by power and profit. But tonight, strength meant allowing himself to love openly, even from afar. And as he prepared to send the letter, he felt certain that no matter how fierce the storm became, the warmth waiting for him at the farm would always guide him home. The letter arrived at the farm on a quiet afternoon, when the sunlight lay gently across the fields like a soft golden blanket. Tieu Lac had just finished watering the vegetable beds when she noticed the postman writing away in the distance. On the wooden table near the porch rested a single envelope, simple yet familiar. The moment she recognized the handwriting, her heart skipped a beat. She wiped her slightly trembling hands on her apron before picking it up, holding it carefully as if it were something fragile and precious. She sat down by the window where the breeze carried the scent of earth and grass. For a few seconds, she did not open it. Instead, she pressed the envelope lightly against her chest, as though she could feel his presence through the paper. The distance between the bustling city and this quiet countryside suddenly felt both vast and insignificant at the same time. Taking a slow breath, she broke the seal and unfolded the letter. As her eyes moved across the first lines, warmth spread through her chest. When she read that the company was facing difficulties, her brows knitted together in concern. She could almost imagine CEO Quan standing in his office, composed and determined, hiding his exhaustion behind a steady voice. She knew him well enough to understand what he did not write. If he said it was a challenge, then it must be far heavier than he allowed himself to admit. And yet, despite the pressure surrounding him, he had taken the time to sit down and write to her. When she reached the part where he promised to return to the farm as soon as things stabilized, her vision blurred with tears. They were not tears of sadness or doubt, they were tears of love and pride. Even while carrying the weight of an entire company on his shoulders, he still thought of her first. He still worried about whether she was eating properly, whether she was overworking herself under the sun. The tenderness in his words wrapped around her like an invisible embrace. "I miss you very much." She read the sentence again and again, as if afraid it might disappear. The ink seemed darker there, almost as though he had pressed the pen down more firmly. Her lips trembled, and a soft sob escaped before she could stop it. She did not cry because she felt abandoned. She cried because she understood how much strength it must have taken for him to admit his vulnerability. The man who stood fearless in boardrooms allowed himself to be gentle with her. Clutching the letter tightly to her chest, Tieu Lac let the tears fall freely. But along with the tears came determination. She whispered softly, as though he could hear her across the distance. "I will wait." She promised herself she would take care of her health, manage the farm well, and remain strong. She did not want him to worry about anything back home while fighting his battles in the city. As the sun slowly dipped toward the horizon, she folded the letter carefully and placed it in a small wooden box where she kept her most treasured memories. The wind rustled the leaves outside, carrying with it a quiet reassurance. No matter how far apart they were, their hearts were moving toward the same future. And in that moment, Tieu Lac felt certain that when he finally returned, it would not just be a reunion, it would be the beginning of a stronger, deeper love forged through distance, patience, and unwavering faith.